What's up, guys? I'm Sarah.
And I'm Haley.
And we're
the Device Girls. Our mission for our podcast is to inspire and empower,
educate, and learn all about the medical and healthcare industry as a whole.
So tune in, and we hope you enjoy this episode.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Device Girls. Today we have on a very special couple of guests, Ainsly and Ryan Johnson. I have had the wonderful opportunity to know Ainsly Johnson for a really long time now. We went to college together, and she was one of my favorite people at McMurray University. Just such a leader and a beautiful, you were for me. Okay, do not laugh. You were for me. She was actually one of my pledge mamas.
I was.
So, just so encouraging and one of my really best friends in college. So, how about we introduce you and you kick off. Introduce yourself, kind of a little bit about your background and what led you to McMurray.
What led me to McMurray?
Sure.
Oh gosh, I followed my sister. Well, I was going to go to Colorado to swim. And then my parents said, well, you're not going to get a car if you go to Colorado. And so I didn't go to Colorado. And I ended up at McMurray with my sister, Erin. And she swam there. And then I started swimming there. So they didn't offer like scholarships or anything. So, because they were so small, the college was. So I swam, and then I quit swimming, I guess, in the middle of college because it wasn't going to get me anywhere. And I started nursing school.
And TIP.
And good old TIP.
What is that?
Well, we can't
tell you.
Oh, okay. Okay. Fine.
That is like the weirdest thing ever to
It's like the deepest, darkest secret
of our club.
Of the club.
And I promise you, it is like
nothing
extravagant. When you find out that you've pledged to, because you don't find out
until
you pledge for 6 weeks what it even
TIP stands for.
Oh,
and you're like,
and it's very like, are we kidding?
Yeah.
Like,
okay,
we
so
thought it
that
was like this big extravagant thing, and it wasn't.
It wasn't.
No.
Was it? Yeah. Okay, were they sororities or like?
Yes.
Yeah,
they're called
weird social clubs.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So TIP was the name of the social club y'all were in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Our rival was Delta Beta.
Yeah.
We love our Delta Beta.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We loved all of them.
Yeah.
But we were the best.
Okay.
Yeah, personally, I think so.
Well, glad I got an understanding, but don't know. Did
you know I would say something like that?
I believe it.
Ainsley was the meanest one. She was. So like during pledging, like until she became a pledge mama, but she was the meanest
for like a little
pledges.
For a little split
I
second,
believe you.
Yeah. It's okay. I took after her too.
Yeah.
I inherited those
wonderful
qualities to the pledges.
I'm still mean. I can be.
We were not. We were just tough love.
Mm.
You know.
Yeah. I mean, suck it up, Buttercup.
Okay, so talk about your nursing school experience, Patty.
Oh, it was terrible.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Okay. Why?
You tried nursing, didn't you?
I know. I started at Patty Hanks, but then I didn't want nursing.
Exactly.
What did you love about nursing school? What didn't you love?
I absolutely hated everything about nursing school.
Why?
They didn't have their stuff together at nursing school. Okay. I mean, in most nursing schools, but you'll probably edit that out. Sorry. But, I mean, Patty Hanks wasn't bad. It was definitely hard, but what the confusing part is right in the middle of nursing school, they decided to change their grading stuff. And then they switched deans, and it was just a mess. But, I mean, nursing school was hard, but I did my clinicals at Hendrix, and I've already worked at Hendrix prior to that. So it was a good connection.
Yeah.
Okay.
Talk about some of those roles that you had starting, like, when you were in school, like PCT and stuff like that.
So in nursing school, if you finish like your junior year, you're eligible to do a CNA, be a CNA or a PCT. I was a CNA, and then I became a patient care tech where you can take out IVs and chart and whatever for the nurses. CNAs are more of like helping with vital signs and giving baths and doing stuff for the patients. But I actually did stuff for the nurses.
Okay.
And
Is that a paid role?
Yes.
I can't remember if you
Yeah, I was paid all throughout
Okay.
nursing school. I worked full time. even during nursing school. I don't know how I did that, but I did. But then I was able to put my foot in the door becoming a nurse on the floor that I was a PCT at and CNA at.
Okay.
So that's where I started my nursing career, was on C6 at Hendricks.
Okay.
Which is like a step down unit, like a PCU unit, progressive care unit, cardiac. So that's where I got my foot in the door of nursing and being in like a cardiac nurse type role.
What made you want to step into that role?
Well, it was just a foot in the door. That wasn't my like ultimate goal of being a nurse. I wanted to be up there, I guess, like ICU status. And that was always my goal. But here at Hendricks, I guess I was comfortable at where I was at. So I didn't want to step out of my comfort zone. To me, there wasn't a reason to.
Yeah.
What drew you to ICU? Why did you want to be an ICU nurse?
I've always wanted to be an ICU nurse. My cousin, when he was 18, was in a 4-wheeling accident. And it was the day of his birthday. He was driving at night on a 4-wheeler without a helmet and didn't realize when he was driving there was, I don't know where he was looking, but there was like bushes or trees. This was in the hill country. So, and he turned and I guess flipped and it landed on his head. So he was in ICU for a good amount.
Oh my gosh.
He has still a lot of deficits now, and it's been, gosh, we're only a year apart. So I was 17 at the time. So it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And he still has deficits. He can't drive. He's on disability. And stuff like that. Yeah. And so watching the nurses at university in San Antonio, watching them take care of him and being like the top dog, I guess you can say, at the hospital, that's what I wanted to do. And that's where I wanted to be.
Yeah.
So I wanted to be the top.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you feel like your nursing school, whether disorganized or not, do you feel like it prepped you well?
No, I think that it lays out like the basics for you.
Okay.
But once you become a nurse, you adapt more, I guess you can say. Kind of like becoming a mom.
Yeah.
To me, it's like, yeah, you know how to take care of a kid, but like being a mom, it comes naturally. And that's how I can compare it to being a nurse. Like you
just have to do it.
Yeah, you figure it out. And nursing school is like, yeah, you can do everything's a textbook. But then when you come out into the real world and be on the floor, not every patient is a textbook patient.
Yeah.
Right.
So you just kind of figure it out.
Yeah.
Just through experience.
Yeah.
We kind of,
We do
same
that
with us too. Because like when we went to MSC, I thought I knew what our job was going to be. Not till you're in it.
Yeah.
You don't know till you're in
Like
it.
same like with blood pressure medicines, like, yeah, you textbook, like, oh, you give this medication because their blood pressure is high. But then when you get out on the floor, you're like, oh, well, this will affect this patient differently while this affects this patient differently. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
So you just got to figure it out.
Yeah.
But
What's been some of the most rewarding parts about being in ICU for you?
Well, I stepped in ICU at the end of 2019. And what happened? What started in 2019? COVID. And so I've seen, being in ICU, I've seen the worst through working in ICU through COVID. I've seen my worst death, which was, I'm not bringing any HIPAA because there's no names, but he was Down syndrome. And it was one of the first deaths that we had. And it was with another nurse. And we were withdrawing on him because he wasn't getting any better. And he had a mentation of, I guess you would say, like a 5 to 7 year old. So he didn't know what was going on.
Oh,
and so we were all dressed up in our COVID gear and going into that room and withdrawing while the parents stood outside a glass window and got to watch.
Oh, no.
So what gave the right of me and another nurse being in the room at his bedside all dressed up while they're watching by a window, watching their son die. Withdrawing.
That is awful.
So that was my worst death because he didn't know what was going on. Lack of oxygen. I mean,
And
we tried our best to keep him comfortable, but.
And he had nobody with him.
Right.
That he knew.
Right.
Did they end up ever getting to go in there or no?
After he died. Because you have to. Doesn't make any sense,
I'm
does
sorry.
it?
That does not make any sense.
No.
Either way, he's passing away. So why?
But he's
There's
still.
just a
Spreading
protocol.
COVID. It was brand new. COVID was this
Yeah.
big thing. And
There
But
were
if
so
you're
many
going to give
questions
them
around it.
access right after,
Nothing about COVID made any sense.
That's true.
Yeah, it's true.
Like, it was just,
it doesn't.
it's true.
I mean,
and now
Well,
you
take
could
the
have
tinfoil
COVID
hat
right
off.
now and be asymptomatic.
Mm-hmm.
It's very
it-
true.
That's true.
It's insane.
I've had COVID 3 times.
Yeah, because you had symptoms. And
Well,
you
yeah,
knew,
well,
right?
yeah, and the first time I literally just had like sniffles and like I thought it was a head
First
cold.
time I ever tested for COVID, I had a headache.
Really,
Really,
That was it.
yeah.
not me. Jeez, it hit me like
I just had a headache, and
freight train.
and I was
Yeah.
COVID positive.
wow.
You wouldn't never known.
No.
Yeah.
So it's
Don't get demonetized having me talk about COVID.
yeah. Anyways, that was my worst death, but when we saw patients walk out of ICU, or not walk, but like be able to be transferred out of ICU during COVID, that was rewarding because
Yeah.
we made a difference. I
Yeah.
felt like.
Mhm.
100%. Do you okay, so Ryan.
Yes.
Hello.
Hey.
Thank you so much for coming on as well. Okay, so backstory. Ryan's gonna get to kind of some of his testimony and story. But real quick,
Mhm.
your relationship and some of the things that have built the foundation for you guys. How do you feel like that's also helped shape you as a nurse?
I could start out with he downgraded.
Whatever.
Stop.
It's an inside joke
Yeah.
with one of his friends.
Yeah. My first wife, my late wife, was a doctor. And so
Mhm.
when I told him, I was like, yeah, I'm probably going to marry this nurse. She's like, that's kind of a downgrade, yeah? I was like, I mean, we have a sick sense of humor. so
Very
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I thought that was a good joke.
I mean, it is a downgrade. Like, monetarily, it's definitely a downgrade.
You know what? Hey, I would laugh at it too. It's fine.
Yes.
You know
Yeah.
what? Yeah.
That's-
So what?
yeah.
You downgraded.
How it shaped us.
How it shaped you as a nurse, she said.
How it shaped me as
Yeah.
a nurse.
How it changed or made
Has
you better
it-
or worse.
Yeah. Not worse.
Got to be open.
Wait, first I have a question. You're still a nurse, right?
Yes.
Okay, so how long have you been a nurse?
I will be a nurse for 9 years.
Okay.
This coming up December.
And you've always been ICU?
No, I started out on a PCU floor, and
Yeah.
then when I got the job at United Regional in 2018, I worked on a PCU unit as well.
Okay.
And then I would say about a year there, I went to ICU. So I've been in ICU since 2019, end of 2019. So about 5 years.
Awesome.
So I've been ICU nurse for 5 years now.
Okay.
Mhm.
Do you
think
wanna
you'll
stay there?
Yes.
forever and ever? Amen.
Well, ultimate goal is to be at a bigger hospital
Mhm.
Okay.
and work at, like in a trauma 1
Okay.
type hospital.
Yeah.
But we have set our feet in Holiday, and I don't think we're planning on moving anytime soon. And so me being a travel nurse or anything like that doesn't make any sense with
Yeah.
having 3 little kids at home. And then with his business and everything.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the smartest move.
Yeah.
Even though it probably makes a lot more money than what I do now, it's
Mhm.
still
Yeah, but I'm looking for a stay-at-home mom, so it's fine.
yeah.
You know what I
That's
mean?
his ultimate goal, me being a stay-at-home mom, do private or do homeschooling.
Heck yeah, that'd be great.
And like a homestead type thing.
Yeah.
But no. I
Yeah.
like being a
Yeah.
nurse. I worked my rear off to
Yeah.
be a nurse
Yes, you
and
did.
work in ICU. And I do love ICU, and I do love where I work.
Yeah.
United Regional's great.
Yeah.
So
So
How our
back
rel-
to that question.
yeah. How our relationship I guess the biggest thing he's kind of taught me is to stand up for myself. I feel like I've done that a little bit more as
At work.
Yeah.
than prior to that.
Yeah.
Because this guy's very vocal, and
Who?
you,
Oh, I'm very vocal.
yes, and he has no filter, but he also like stands up for what he believes.
Yeah.
And then his late wife was pretty confident, and that's what you built into her is what
Mhm.
we've discussed. And so I feel like he has done that for me too.
Yeah.
And I ask him his opinion about everything. And I want to understand the facts behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the biggest thing. He's like, don't bring any emotion into it.
Yeah.
Your facts about it. And so I feel like that has made me
Why
more
are men
confident.
so logical?
I know.
Dustin's
I
the
don't
same
think
way.
there's not, to clarify, I don't think there's not a place for emotion, but like emotion is a useless thing in a debate or in a fact-finding mission or in a truth-finding, like any of that. Like emotion's pointless in it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know
It
what I
is
mean? How
true.
it makes me feel, like who cares?
Mhm.
Like what's the result or not the result?
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
Or like anything that has to do with business. Business is business at the end of the day, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, you still have to have integrity though.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right? Like integrity is crucial
For sure.
to, and so, but yeah, business is business.
Yeah. Ryan, do you want to talk a little bit about your background and yourself and kind of just introduce yourself?
Yeah, I can. After I graduated high school, I did not go to college. I think that's a sham. Aside from being like a nurse or a doctor or something, I think it's the biggest lie told to the American kids right now is that they have to go to college to make something of themselves. But I got out of high school. I joined the Navy. I was there for 5 years. I got out of the Navy. I worked as a civilian contractor for about a year, and then I was a cop for 6 years in Norfolk, Virginia.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. That's my background. When my late wife got a job opportunity in Wichita Falls, I'm from Oklahoma originally, and then my parents were missionaries. They were Southern Baptist missionaries in Mexico, and so
You lived in Mexico for a good while.
Yeah, a good part of my like junior high through graduation. I lived in Mexico or Costa Rica, one of the two. And
wow.
Yeah, and so whenever I graduated high school, I came back to the States and did that. But the Navy got me to Virginia. I stayed in Virginia because I didn't want to come back home and be a cop in Mayberry. Like if I'm going to be a cop, I want to be a cop. You know what I mean? Like do the job. And so I stayed there, and it was definitely not Mayberry. It was pretty intense working there, which I love that job. Not so much in the political structure that we have now, but I liked
the intensity.
Yeah, the intensity of the job, and so we came back here because she got a job opportunity here at Wichita Falls, so not here, but in Wichita Falls, and we moved back. And when we moved back, the world was changing, and I was like, I probably can't do this, be a police officer anymore. So I tried a couple different ventures, and I think I opened an archery shop. I was part owner in a gun shop for a little while.
Okay.
And heck, I even worked at Academy for a little while.
Really?
Just like stocking the shelves. It's something interesting about that is like, that was such a weird deal because you heard my pedigree coming up to being working at Academy. I was never more stressed out than when they were yelling about the beef jerky aisle. You know what I mean?
Really?
Yeah, like it was like like the management and leadership in those type of stores is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And so I mean, that's not why I quit there. I just decided I didn't want to work there. But like, it was interesting. Like they put so much emphasis on the stupid stuff at big businesses like that.
Well, you're also a professional shooter.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
I was a professional shooter for a little while. Been on a TV show for that. I think at one point I was ranked 24th in the nation at nationals at that national. So
okay.
That's amazing.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was fun. Yeah, I was getting free ammo every month, and that was awesome. It was really cool.
That's
It was
awesome.
a cool deal. Now, I mean, we still teach shooting now.
Yeah.
But we don't gear it towards like competition. Even though the competition world definitely transfers over, you hear a lot of people are like, "Oh, the targets don't shoot back," all that. I'm like, yeah, but those skill sets carry over to when they do. And so we do a lot of teaching now. That's one of our businesses. It's not making any money because advertising, all that's just a pain in the butt. Scheduling, you have to do it on the weekends, and it's like we don't have weekends to do with the kids. But yeah, I mean, we do that as one of our businesses. And so after the archery shop, I realized I didn't like dealing with people, like in the retail space. Like like all my jobs have been like you can deal with, like as a cop, like if somebody's being crazy, you deal with it appropriately. You know what I mean? In the retail space, however, that same level of violence is not appropriate apparently. And so
You think?
Yeah. I mean, I realized quickly, I was like, I'm going to hurt somebody in here. And so I got out of that, and I was a stay-at-home husband for a little while, and just kind of doing that whole time. By the way, from about the end of my police career all the way through all the other stuff, I had a bird dog. Me and my first wife Daniela had got a bird dog, and I trained it, and I did a terrible job looking back, but people didn't know that.
You learned.
Yeah, 100%. That poor dog, Artemis was her name. And,
Artemis.
Yeah, and during that time, we learned a lot. But like other people had started being like, "Hey, can you help me with my dog?" And I did it originally, and then somebody was like, "Yeah, you should charge people to do this." I'm like, "Okay." And I think like in a year we maybe trained 4 or 5 dogs those first couple of years, and then I kept doing it on the side that whole time. And so I was a dog trainer basically for tax write-offs. You know what I mean? Like I more or less, because Danny was making good money, and so we would buy dog stuff that I was going to buy anyway and use it as a tax write-off. But anyway, when she died, it kind of became like, hey, I got to figure out what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Right.
And I was already doing that, and so we kept going. I mean, there's more to that story. I'm sure the questions will lead there. But.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're open to like going into that and speaking about that.
Which part? I'm open to anything.
About Danny and kind of like your relationship and kind of how that evolved.
Sure. So we met in Mexico. She was born and raised in Puebla, Mexico, old Mexico.
Wow.
You wouldn't think that she was.
No, she blonde hair, blue eyed, and white.
Wow.
Yeah, you wouldn't think.
Really?
Yeah, like these curtains white. And but no, I mean she was Mexican. Her dad, I think her dad was like Greek lineage, so her dad was American, and then.
Ooh, I'm Greek.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Good, then you should be the right kind of Christian. Greek Orthodox.
Okay.
That's the good kind.
Back to this.
My bad. So her dad was Greek, and her mom was Mexican, and so
is.
Yeah. Sorry, they're both still alive, so is. But anyway, they raised her there. We met at a American school like summer camp.
Okay.
So all the American schools, there's a lot of the missionary kids that go there they go to these schools. So like Mexico City has 2 schools, north side and south side. It's a huge city, so you can't even drive across them in a couple hours.
Wow.
But like, it's crazy big. And so like there was a north side academy and a south side academy, and they're Christian schools or whatever. And so there was one in Puebla, and there's one somewhere else. I think Oaxaca. Yeah, Oaxaca has one because I went there. That's where I graduated from. It was a long time ago, guys.
Yeah.
And so we met at one of those camps, kind of hung out, did the, I don't know if you could call it dating, right? But like we talked to each other over what the heck was it called?
You were in the talking phase.
AOL. Like we did the messenger crap.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, for
I remember all that.
I don't know,
stuff.
6 months, and then I was not a good child, and so she
does not surprise me.
Yeah, that's another understatement. I don't want to exaggerate everything, but I just wasn't getting what I needed as a young boy from that relationship, and so I just kind of stopped talking to her. I just ghosted this chick, like completely, just stopped talking to her. Yeah, poor girl. But anyway, fast forward down the road, I'm in the Navy, and I never really dated just to date, like I was always looking for that one person because that's how I was raised, You're looking for a wife, and that's what you're doing. And so that's kind of the purpose of dating in my world. But anyway, so I'm looking for that person, and I'm like running in. My thing about the last girl that I dated was,
oh gosh.
Yeah, at one point, like she was like doing drugs, you know what I mean?
Oh,
and
wow.
I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
She's like, oh, she was in college, and so I was over there, and she's like snorted a line off the dresser, and I'm like, what is that? I'm in the Navy, you know what I mean? Like I can't be around any of this crap.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, it's that stuff or man, she chose that stuff. I was like, cool. So I go back. I'm at home, and for a couple weeks, I'm like, well, how does somebody find a spouse that's worthy of being a spouse? Right?
Yeah.
And so I started like thinking back at all the girls that I had talked to or whatever, and I was like, well, those ones were pretty good at this place in my life.
Yeah.
And so I kept up with where, like, she still hung up with like my brother and sister, Danny did.
Uh-huh.
And so she was around all the time. And I remember, what she wanted to do and all this. And so I called my mom one time whenever she was there with them. And I was like, let me talk to her. And so I got on the phone with her. And I was like, hey, how you doing? It's crazier than that. She was a little bit crazy. I mean, so is this one, but I think all of y'all are.
Well, okay, so Danny wrote a book
Really?
after she passed or whatever. It was
Well,
kind
I
of,
found it after she passed. She
Yes.
didn't write it after she passed.
Well,
she was in the process of writing it, but like he let me read it and
Uh-huh.
she was obsessed
Yeah.
with him.
Yeah.
Like
Really?
listening to this part, it was in that book and it was
But like even before you
She-
didn't know that she was obsessed with you.
I mean, all women are obsessed with this. I mean, that, but like,
but like even that 3 years that he ghosted her or whatever, it's
Yeah.
in that
Oh,
book.
wow.
And so
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I'm reading this and I'm picturing it.
Yeah.
And this fool
yeah,
ghosted her for 3 years, yet she was
it
like
worked.
Oh.
she she was friends with his sister and so
Mhm.
she was like, maybe he can talk to me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
So
wow.
listening to this and when he reached back out to her,
Yeah.
she was
well,
very
I called her and then I was like, hey, can I call you? Yeah. I was like, why don't you come up here and visit me? And she's like, okay. And so she flies up and I mean, I literally, when she got there, after we had talked a couple of times on the phone, probably every day after that point, a few weeks. And then she came up for a week. I was like, hey, I'm looking for a wife. Like,
Yeah.
this is the things you can expect from me. These are the things I expect from you. You want to do this? And she's like, absolutely, let's go. And so it was at that point, she was in medical school in Mexico. Okay. And so like just in the beginning of medical school in Mexico. And I think I don't know the exact timelines on this, but like, I think it was like 6 or 7 years of long distance relationship.
Oh,
Wow.
wow.
And she would come up and I would go down, but like, it wasn't like, it did build a really, really, really strong bond between us because there was nothing,
Mhm.
it's not like we could do anything else. Like there was no
Mhm.
physical at all because it was all over the phone all the time. Excuse me. Or Skype. Skype kind of became a thing during that
Mm.
time, right? And you could actually see the person on the
Yeah.
deal as opposed to just talking to them. But yeah, we had like 6 or 7 years of that. Then we got married when she graduated. I promised her dad that I would wait until she graduated to marry her, which I don't know why he wanted that, but he did. And so I promised that. I kept my word. When she graduated, we got married. She moved to the United States, which was at the time Virginia Beach, Virginia. And she had dual citizenship, so there was no like,
Yeah.
bouncing back and forth. So that part was easy. And she started, I was a cop at the time. She started working like odds and end jobs. I think she was a scribe at the hospital, just trying to be in that
Okay.
field to try to make connections while she waited to take her USMLE tests, which are, there's three steps to that. And then I think there's an oral review board. I don't really remember that process, but like a foreigner with a medical degree coming into the States has to pass these tests in order to practice in the States.
Correct.
Or
Right.
in order to apply for residency to then practice in these states.
Okay.
And so she excelled at all those, like crushed them and then got the residency in Wichita Falls. So that's pretty much our relationship and how it started or how we met. But
So, and then her role was we're going to be a hospitalist.
I don't know what that means.
Okay.
So this is not my role.
She was supposed to be a hospitalist April of
Well, she was family
2021.
medicine.
Yes,
Yeah.
but
She
she's-
got hired to be a hospitalist. Yeah.
Yes, of April
Okay.
2021.
Okay.
But and then her passing
Yeah, she
prior
died in
to that.
February. Yeah.
Yeah.
She was working already as a doctor for I think 3 years at a community healthcare center there in Wichita Falls. So
Okay.
she was already a
Hospice,
family.
right?
Huh?
And hospice, right?
Yeah, she did all kinds of stuff. Hospice. She had a bunch of side gigs. Doctors they got all these side gigs. Well, all they got to do is answer the phone and say yes or no. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And they get paid to do that, which is cool. But yeah, she did hospice and family medicine there, and they tried to hire her as a hospitalist when she got out of her residency, but she thought this would be better and she wanted to start a family,
Okay.
So-
Okay. So, how
So-
long? Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
How long were y'all? Had y'all been married at that point? And had she been in the States?
At that point, I don't know, 5-ish years.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so I think we were married close to 10 years total.
Okay.
I don't know how long, like we've been together for a very long time.
Yeah.
16.
Mhm.
When we met, I was 16 I have
wow.
a picture of that. Too.
Wow.
I was way younger. But yeah, so I don't know how long we were married at that point.
Okay.
When she died, we had been officially like married and living in the same place for 9 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay, so talk us through like you guys starting your family, and then if you want, kind of talk about like that day and the story and what happened.
Yeah, so when we started the family, like she got out of residency and she's like, hey, let's try to get pregnant. I think I was on some kind of medication for something at the time, sarcoidosis actually.
Okay.
He had that.
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
had
familiar with that.
And so I was on steroids for
Okay.
it. It's like a autoimmune thing.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
But like it's gone, thank God. And so we could not have kids during that for some. I don't know the reason why or all that, but we couldn't do that.
Yeah.
And so after we were off of that for a while, she's like, hey, let's start trying to have a baby. I'm like, okay. And I think like a year and a half went by of that trying, right? And it was like, in my head, I was like, oh, yeah, I'm 30 something years old, 35 years old. That's not going to happen, whatever, just move forward. And one day she's like, hey, I'm pregnant, and she had this big old grin on her face. I'm like, why? I won't even say the word. I'm like, why the F are you smiling so big? You know what I mean? Like I was good. Like we had it, like we were good. And so obviously it didn't stay like that. Didn't say my answer, but that's the best part of the story. And
Why are you smiling?
Yeah.
That's literally his reaction when she's like, I am pregnant. And he said, why are you smiling?
Yeah. And so
He's
we
told me the
had-
story. What?
like 8 months later, we had James,
Okay.
and
He is so cutie.
yeah, he's a good boy. He's smart too.
Yeah.
He's smart.
And so shortly after that, we were ramping up to do some field trials. We had horses for a while before that. Like we each had a horse. Trying to think how some of this kind of was cloudy, But anyway, we had some horses. She rode them every day. Like even when she was pregnant, she was riding. I've got pictures of her like full belly riding her horse.
Oh my gosh.
She loved it. She loved doing the dog stuff with me.
Yeah.
In her off time. Like it was cool. It was a cool relationship because a lot of times you see all these like sitcoms or whatever, and people are like, yeah, my wife's mad that I'm hunting all the time. You know what I mean? My wife was too, but it wasn't because I was gone. It was because she wasn't there too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, because she had to work, somebody had to pay the bills. Like,
Mhm.
was living the life.
Yeah.
It's great. It was like a sponsored hunter. And
It's like a
and so we were ramping up to do some field trials with our 2 dogs that we had at the time, or 3. Artemis was in the process of dying right around the time that James was born.
Mhm.
But like we were doing 2 dogs, and field trials are like hunting competitions, if you will,
Okay.
and it's off a horseback. And so you let your dogs go and you follow them on a horse.
Okay.
But we were doing that, and James was 9 months. No, he was a year and like 2 months old. And we were at a
Whenever that, he
Yeah, when the accident
was 13, November, December. He was 14 months.
there you go.
Yeah.
And so
14
we
months.
were out riding, and she had. So we were at a clinic where we were helping other people train dogs, and we were on like an off day. So we were out riding, running our own dogs, and I had done 1 lap. When I came back, she was trying to get James to take a nap. He didn't want to. When I came back, she was like, "Hey, I'm gonna go with you on this one because he's not gonna sleep." I said, "Okay." So she straps him on just like she always did when she went riding. Because what do you don't have a babysitter, right? Like you can't just leave him in a cage like the dog. So it's unfortunate, really. Like that should become more acceptable. But she straps him onto her chest like on a little backpack, but in the front,
Mhm.
and she jumps on her horse and we go riding. And they're about the end. At some point, we got off, or she got off, and she's like, "Hey, this horse is really squirrely, And I'm like, "Oh, it's fine. Well, the camp's right here." She's like, "I think I might walk it back." I'm like, "Nah, you'll be fine. Just get back on. Go ahead and go to the camp. It's right here. It's literally 200 yards, 250 yards away."
Mhm.
And so she jumped back on. I went through a creek crossing, and she was behind me. She followed me through this creek crossing. I heard her say, "Oh God." And I looked back over my shoulder this way, and I could see that everything was like squirrely back there. But my horse was also squirrely because that horse was squirrely. That's kind of the way they work.
Yeah.
And so my horse started to turn, so I had to look back the other way. By the time I looked back the other day, she was flat on her back, and there was a loud pop in there too, like something getting hit, and so she was flat on her back. James was screaming. The horse was just standing there. Like, the horse wasn't like, and I was like, oh crap! So I jumped down. There was another lady behind us, and she's like, oh no, are you okay? And I'm like, okay, I need you. So I hollered her over. I took James and cut him off, because when I ran up to there, I was like, oh, she's not here anymore. Like, she's gone, right? Because the horse had kicked her over her right eye in her forehead, and there was a lot of things that were exposed. I don't know how much I can.
You're okay.
Say on here.
Yeah.
But like, her brain was visible, and things like that, and there was quite a bit of blood. She had blood already on her mouth, and like the pulmonary, like the lung blood, like the light pink blood was like bubbling up here, and I was like, oh crap. So I grabbed my knife, I cut off James instead of moving her, right? And being a cop and like in the military and stuff, like this is, I'm going to secure the scene. At this point, I wasn't emotional about it, because it was business. Like, this is what I do every day, right? This is what I'd always done my whole life. I prepare for this type of thing. And so I cut him off. I hand him to the lady. I'm like, go get help, or take my son. My wife's dead. And so I tried to call right there. Didn't really work. She did go ahead and take the kid. Somebody else came back and was dealing with getting ambulance, or I told them, I was like, get a helicopter here. You know what I mean? Like, they were out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like, get a helicopter here, because I knew that there wasn't a hospital. And so they actually did. They sent a helicopter like on us, telling them to, which was pretty cool until you get the bill. It was really cool. Right up until you get the bill, by the way. Don't get the bill. But but they sent the helicopter. But it took like 45, well, it felt like an eternity, but maybe 30, between 30 minutes and an hour for them to get there. And so during that time, like, I was just trying to hold everything together up here, and
for her,
like hold her brain, because it was swelling, so like it was pushing out, and so I was trying to hold it together. I didn't have anything to wrap it with. I didn't have anything, you know what I mean? And so she quit breathing 3 times there on the ground, and I resuscitated her all 3 times, and kept her breathing. And then when the medics got there, or when the helicopter landed, by then a sheriff had already gotten there, and I think the ambulance crew had pulled up kind of at the same time. And so they started working, and I kind of stepped off. And at that point, like, when I was able to stop being in charge, or stop, like, then I was like, oh crap, like, this is not good, and that's when, like, the emotion of everything, or me, like, there was a point where I was like, oh, my life just completely changed. You know what I mean? There was still hope, though, because I resuscitated her 3 times. This is the interesting part. Since this is a medical podcast, like, there's an interesting part that I'll get into about that, where it's like, I had hope that like, oh, maybe she'll survive this or whatever. Like, there's a billion thoughts that go through your head at that point. Like, there's so many things. I can't even voice them all. But they took her to Austin, because we were down in that part of Texas.
Okay.
And I think she got there pretty quickly. And so one of the guys that was there drove me to that hospital. And we were with a bunch of people that we knew. And so they were like, we'll take care of James.
Okay.
Go. Which is awesome. I mean, the support network that I had was the only reason that I'm able to get through this. Well, that and God, right? But I get to the hospital. I'm there. It takes forever. It's also during this COVID crap. And they're like, sir, you can't come in without a mask. And I'm like, I don't think you understand. I'm coming in this hospital. You can bring a mask to me. I don't care. My wife's in here. You know what I mean? And I was a lot more aggressive back then than I am now. And so I get to the room. Her brother lives in Texas. And so he showed up later that day. And when I shook his hand, it was so weird. Like, people are so not exposed to this life at all, that when I shook his hand, he's like, dude, your hands are still got dirt on them. And I was like, that's not dirt, dude. You know what I mean? That's your sister's blood, right? Like, and like that, he turned pale and was like, oh my gosh, I've never seen that, Unfortunately, I had seen lots of blood like that. Just this one was the most important one to me. And so we were there, I think, a couple of days, and the doctor came in and he's like, hey, I'm like, hey, what's the deal? What is she going to wake up? Like, I didn't have any information. Like, I'm still thinking that she's going to wake up. And he's like, they didn't tell you? She's brain dead. Like, she's gone. We're just waiting on you to decide what to do. I'm like, nobody asked me what to do.
Oh,
It was just
my
this
gosh.
crazy thing, and people couldn't come in. I think at that point they were allowing like 2 people, so I was always there, and then like her brother could come in, and then her mom could come in. I got everybody there.
I guess the blessing with that is that her entire family were in the States.
Yeah, they had just visited.
Oh, good.
Instead
Okay.
of from Mexico, they were in Texas.
Except well,
Wow.
not her dad.
Well,
Because her
not
mom
her
and dad
dad,
are
yeah.
divorced, and so he
But
flew in. But
her mom.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. So was she an organ donor?
no, thank God.
Okay.
Like, I'm gonna go off on something with that. I hate those people. Like, they're like scavengers. They're like vultures, and they don't take into account what's going on
Mhm.
with that loss. And so at one point, her mom and I were up there, and the organ donor person came in and was like, "Hey, do you want to do this?" And she's like, the way that she was talking set my mother-in-law at the time off pretty good. And she looked at me and she's like, "Hey, I want this person out of here." And I'm like, "Bye."
Mhm.
Well, I know somebody very well who was friends with the nurse that had Danny. He trained the nurse that had Danny, so me and him were really good friends. And so he was communicating with her about. So apparently the organ donor person walked out, tells the nurse like, "Well, I'm going to look her up, and if she's an organ donor, we're going to take it." And I'm just like,
Whoa.
to be fair, like, you heard my background, okay? My friend's like, if that happens, get everybody that you love and leave the hospital, because he's gonna burn it to the ground, right? Like, and I would have, like, if they would have done that, like, I would have destroyed.
What is the protocol on
So-
that? So
Yeah.
if like I'm an organ donor
Okay.
and I
Mm-hmm.
pass,
Mm-hmm.
but then Dustin is
Doesn't
not
matter.
in the mental
He
state.
has no say in it.
Think
At
about
all.
that.
He has no
Really?
say in it.
So go to your driver's
So
license and uncheck
it's
that
not
box.
that's not as easy as that sounds. There's another process. Like, yes, you can check it, yes, as an organ donor on your license, but to take you off the list, it's not that easy. You have to go to their website, you have to put in information, you have to take yourself off.
Really?
I'm not saying that organ donation is bad.
Yeah.
it's not.
It's
Yeah.
such a blessing
It
for
is.
other people
It
to
is.
receive organs.
Mhm.
But the way they go about it needs to change, because yes, they can be absolute vultures and they don't see the patient side of things. And a lot of them are not clinical. They're not nurses.
Mm-mm.
Most
Oh,
of them
really? They're
Aren't. No,
just
that's just
there to
their
retrieve.
job.
No, they're a salesperson.
They don't. Yes, they don't see a patient for who they are, or they don't see the emotional side of things.
Mhm.
They're just saying, "Oh, we got a heart. They match. Let's take it."
Yeah.
They don't see the emotion and like, this is his wife.
Mhm.
Mhm.
This isn't just a heart. This isn't just a lung.
Yeah.
And so I deal with that a lot in ICU.
yeah.
I mean, we did end up, like, once we had all that information, I got everybody to be able to be up there. And I was like, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to unplug. I don't know what all the medical terms are. We're going to pull that plug. If she doesn't die, like, if she's able to withstand, then we're going to plug back in and do this for as long as we have to do it to keep her alive. If she dies, then we'll have our answer. You know what I mean? And that, I don't know, like, you guys can judge me on that decision,
Oh,
but it was
no.
just like, I don't mean you guys. I mean, whoever's listening.
Yeah.
Like, everybody, I pray to God nobody else ever is in that situation. But if you are, it's hard to make those decisions anyway.
Yeah.
And so that was the decision that I made, because I knew that, like, my faith knew that either she was going to live or die at that point, and we would have our answer. And so we unplugged. She died within 30 seconds. Like, it was immediate. But then we did donate the organs after
you
that.
did.
Because then I had an answer. Like, then you
He
weren't
didn't.
taking somebody.
He didn't donate.
Yeah, I did after that. I've got letters and everything.
You did?
I did after she had passed. I said, go ahead, tell the vultures to come get whatever they want. 100%. And so they took tissue and all this other stuff.
Oh, eyes and
Yeah.
did they take heart? And
No, they couldn't do that because
Yeah.
she was already dead.
So they did eyes and
Yeah.
tissue, but they didn't do like the heart.
Yeah.
I was
Okay.
like, I didn't know that. But
Yeah. I mean, at that point, like, I
they
had
did the
my
eyes
answer.
and tissue.
But I wasn't going to let them kill her to take those things.
Right.
You know what I mean? But yeah, that was a terrible experience for me from the medical side. Like,
I'm so
it
sorry.
was, no, it's okay. I mean, it's not anybody's fault.
Was that ever a conversation? Because I mean, as a parent
Mhm.
and a wife, and like, it's not it's not something that Dustin and I like really
it's
have.
not something,
We have
especially
things
young
in
people.
place, right? Like we
Yeah.
have really great life insurance policies and we have great insurances and things like that. But was that ever a conversation that you and Danny had prior to like say, you know?
Not necessarily. So one thing about her, this is a strong quality, like very strong quality. Most women that listen to this probably aren't going to hear it, is that she was like old school, like she submitted to whatever. Now had her own opinion and all that, which is fine, and definitely could argue it. Like she was a doctor, right? Like, so she was smart. But in the end, like even if all the facts are laid out and we still don't agree, she would just default.
Really?
Right. And so what that meant to me at the time was she trusted me to make those kind of decisions.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? And to be fair, like I would 100%, she was a doctor. I would trust her to make that kind of decision too.
Yeah.
So we didn't have to talk about it.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
true.
We knew each other well
That
enough
is true.
that it was just like, whatever decision you make is the right one.
Yeah.
I'm behind it,
Okay.
you know?
That's
so
incredible.
how is that kind of
We haven't talked
folded
about it
onto
necessarily
approaching?
either.
Okay.
For us?
Yeah.
Well, we've said like if I have to be tricked or pegged, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wouldn't want to live with
A
this
trick,
and this. Yeah. But if they're, I mean, keep me a full code until like if I have a brain injury that's going to keep me in bed or whatever, don't. Like,
Yeah, I don't want to be a
no, I don't
Yeah.
want to be a vegetable.
Right.
But I mean, if
No.
I'm brain dead, no. I mean, there's a lot of legality to brain dead patients
Mhm.
that some people don't know. Like if they're declared brain dead, they are dead. You can't keep them alive. You can't keep them on a vent. They're legally dead. So there's a lot of legality to brain dead patients that some don't understand.
I didn't
but-
realize that
Mhm.
either.
No, I
Wow.
didn't either.
Because I thought even if you were brain dead,
you could still.
like if the
No, if you don't have your reflexes, then you're brain dead and you can deem brain dead of the state of Texas or whatever state that you're in, you're dead, unfortunately. And yes, your body is still alive for if you want to harvest organs and whatnot, but
you're gone.
that's your time of death. Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
Interesting.
I
didn't know
wonder-
that either.
I wonder why people don't understand that more. I think because in like movies and TV shows, they show like brain dead patients and then like the families there like hanging
Mhm.
on, trying to keep them on the vent and everything so long.
That is
Mhm.
kind of, I think, a gap.
And then
like
a lot of people
misconception.
do
Yeah.
question, like, if you're on a vent and does it keep your heart? Like, can you die if you're on a vent? Yes. The vent's only for lungs. It's not for your heart. It's
Mhm.
pumping oxygen to your heart to keep your organs alive, but
Mhm.
you can absolutely pass away on the vent.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. It's oxygen,
Yeah.
so it helps
Right.
with the lungs. It doesn't pump your heart.
Yeah.
There's another machine that can do that,
Mhm.
but
Wow.
yeah. Anyways,
I'm so
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to lighten up that whole
Mhm.
story, not like it's much lighter, but it'll definitely make some people laugh if they're crying or whatever. But we when I finally after that I hadn't left the
Oh
hospital at all.
gosh, I know what you're talking
Right.
about.
Yeah, I hadn't left the hospital at all. Like I hadn't seen my son, I hadn't seen anybody but her family that was there to
Mhm.
visit her, and so we all left the hospital. I'm kind of in a daze after like 3 days of sleeping on the couch with no sleep because the nurses are flipping on lights and
Mhm.
and so we get to the hotel lobby where like there's a million people there that are there to support me and her, and I see my son for the first time in all this. Well, my mother-in-law is very Mexican. Like her English, she speaks English fine, but like there's definitely like a language barrier on
Mhm.
translation. So like certain things will sound weird, when it comes over to English. And so we're sitting there and I give my son a hug and all this, and she comes up and she's like, "Hey, who are you sleeping with tonight?" What she's asking is
Where?
or who,
Yes.
which room are you staying in, or do you have? But like that's how it translated in her brain. And I just looked at her and I was like, I think it's customary to wait some time before you do that. You know what I mean? And she almost died right then. But
Oh my gosh.
I mean,
That's
that's
funny.
the way that anytime I've been around death as a police officer or anywhere else, was like, that's how we dealt with it. You know, you have to push through. There does have to be some way of dealing with it. And I mean, I'm sure it's the same thing in her job. Like, she's around death probably more than I was, but I mean, mine's a little bit more vivid death than it would be in a hospital, but I think that's how you have to deal with that type of thing, is with humor, and at least that's how I dealt with it.
We were actually talking about this on the way.
That's what I was
here.
gonna say.
We both don't cope well with death.
Well, I wouldn't say we don't cope well. It's just like Sarah and I are both very like just power through type people. Like, and I was telling Sarah, I was like, sometimes I just like, sometimes I feel like I'm kind of a cold person. I'm not, but I'm just like, okay, like it happened.
I had that feeling a lot during all.
I can imagine.
Like, where I was like, people probably think I'm cold hearted, because I don't think anybody saw me cry aside from my son or like my inner circle of people. Yeah. I'm still a man. I still have to do that role, right? And part of that role to me is being strong, you know.
So what did that look like for you after, and like with James, and how'd you even go about like addressing that?
Especially that initial like first embrace and encounter with him.
It was just normal. I don't think he really understood that she wasn't there. I don't know, except for maybe one time, that I ever even saw him look for her. He was that young. Okay. So praise God for that, right? Like, because we didn't have to necessarily do that.
I remember you telling me when it was just you and James when you got home.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That one time, like he walked around, like something's not here, but I don't think he had the structure. And so as far as that goes, like, I didn't talk about it necessarily, because he could say like dada, you know what I mean? Like, so how do you have a logical conversation with that? We just moved forward. You know what I mean? I think it wasn't even until recently that I even talked to him about it at all.
Right. Okay.
Because I wanted to make sure that he understood, right? But at a certain point in his life, in the last year, right, he was like, hey, he said something interesting, which was, because he started calling her mommy or mama or mom. I don't even know what he called you, but whatever it was, like one of those. Me
Aishi and the AA. And then all of a sudden, mommy.
Yeah. Really? One day, just like nobody prompted it. Nobody, like, he just started calling her that.
Yeah.
And at some point in the last year, he came up and he's like, hey, where's my other mommy?
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? That's something you're never prepared for, because it's like, oh, here we go. And so, because you don't know how he's going to take it or how he's going to react. And so we
never hid it from him.
No, there's pictures all in our house.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? For a long time, actually, I tested it for a while, because I'm a weirdo, but like there'd be pictures of her and of Danny in the same room. And I'd be like, who's that? And he's like, mommy. And I'm like, who's that? Mommy. Right? Like, he just like they were the same person. He didn't know. And at a certain point he did, right? Like
that's
at one point or the other, he was like, hey, where is that person? And so I let her know, and then we set him down and we talked to him. Or maybe I did it alone.
No, we both did.
Yeah, in the bathroom.
But we asked him questions first. Like, what all do you know practically? Like, where do you know where this mommy is? Or we just asked him questions.
Yeah. Well, that's the best way to teach.
Instead of us like telling him, we wanted to know what he knew already.
Right.
So we just told him. I mean, so that's one thing that I do with my kids, all of them. If he asks me why the sun goes up and goes down, I try to explain like the rotation of the earth and the universe.
Instead of it just does.
Yeah, instead of it just does, because how else are they going to know stuff if you don't teach them?
Right.
You know what I mean? And so, like I told him, like we were riding and she got kicked by a horse and she died, you know? And so like he was like, okay. And I mean, there are times when I see emotion from him due to it, but it's not like a thing. And it might be later in his life. I don't know. We'll see. But like he has a mom, right? Matter of fact, when I was reading the questions on the way here, one of them says something about like a step parent. And I was like, but he doesn't have a step parent.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't even like that word.
Right.
Because you are what you're being.
Yeah.
Right.
It's true.
like he has a mom because she is being his mom.
Mm-hmm.
He just has two,
Yeah.
right? Because he had a mom and now he has another mom.
And a lot more grandparents.
I mean, like I even have scripture to back that up, right?
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
the Pharisees are talking to Christ, right?
Yeah.
They're like, hey, we're the children of Abraham. He's like, no, you're not. I mean, this is the Ryan Johnson translation, by the way. This isn't verbatim, right? But he's like, if you're the children of Abraham, you'd act like Abraham.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's you are what you are.
Yeah.
You are what you're being. So
So what did that look like as far as you two go? How long after she passed did you guys get together? And
We have so we can go into the coincidences.
yeah, I mean, let's. I met her a month after Danny died.
okay.
Okay.
Right?
We not like dating wise or
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah,
It
I just
was
met her.
met like hi. We're in the same life group.
Yeah.
We didn't even sit by each other. We were just there.
I mean,
And we met,
Mm-hmm.
but we weren't having conversation or anything like that.
Yeah.
yeah,
I would say.
no, not for like 8 months.
We started hanging out with the same people like 2 or 3 months after that. I would say like during the summer.
Yeah, we might have like passed by.
And I was going through a divorce at the time. But it was a couple months hanging out with the same people, but we never hugged, we never touched, we never did any of that.
I said hi, maybe.
We just say hey. And
yeah, I definitely wasn't looking for a new relationship.
Yeah.
I wasn't either.
Yeah.
No.
And during that time, like, how was that for you as stepping into this whole new world of
Being a stay-at-home or being like the
single
single dad.
Yeah.
Well, it was crazy because like I already told you where she was with her husband. So it was also like that with her kid. Like she did the laundry, she did the dishes. Even after working a 12-hour shift, by the way, she did the laundry, she did the dishes, she cleaned the house, she took care of the baby. Like if she was there, I did not change a diaper, period.
really?
I did not wake up in the middle of the night. I still don't.
Yeah.
I still don't.
Yeah.
I'm just not good at that. I don't have
Yeah.
that. And so it was very hard coming from one side to doing the other, you know.
Well, I mean, you did mention when you didn't even know the bedtime routine.
Yeah, I didn't.
Like whenever she passed and he had to give James a bath or get him ready for bed, he didn't know what to do.
Oh wow.
Yeah. That's what we've had this discussion many times.
Yeah. I mean, it feels like a lot longer than it was, but it feels like a distant part of my memory,
Mhm.
probably because that's what trauma does. You know what I mean?
Right.
It was
But-
only 4 years ago.
Yeah,
I
it's
know.
not
Yeah.
that long ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, we just made it work. So there was a point there where I was like, you know what? If it wasn't for James, I'd be dead. Right? Like if it wasn't for James, I wouldn't have had the strength to go forward.
Really?
You know what I mean? Yeah, because it was like my entire life was for that one point, and she was my entire life. We did everything together. She was my best friend. And so when she died, it was like just halt to everything, you know? And so if it wasn't for James, I wouldn't have killed myself or something like that. I would have just put myself into situations where I probably would have died. Right.
Yeah.
And so, but when I looked at it, I had two options. It was either when I looked at what the options I had was pick yourself up and do a good job for your son
Mm-hmm.
and do the best that you can, or be a shitbag, basically, right? And don't do a good job for your son. But either way, like he's the outcome of the decision that you make. So
Correct.
what he becomes as a man is there's a pinnacle here, there's a fork in the road, and what he becomes as a man depends on the direction that I go here.
Yeah.
Right. And so I chose to do my best, which is definitely not perfect, but I chose to do my best and go that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, he's pretty awesome. I mean, good boy.
And raising kids is hard.
I don't think so.
Okay. Yes, it is hard.
I really,
You're like,
I mean,
okay.
like all of the stuff that you have to deal with
Yeah.
and like the schedule and all that. Yeah, that stuff's all
Yeah.
tough.
Well,
I don't deal with it. So
She's like,
So-
wait.
no, when when we did start like, okay, maybe this could be something.
Yeah.
It was August, I would say, of 21.
Yeah, it was very short. Like, people are definitely going to judge this. Like,
Okay,
Well,
yeah.
No,
Walk us
everybody
through this though.
processes
Honestly,
trauma
Yeah.
differently.
I mean,
Yes.
I don't think
people-
we'll be judged by it.
I don't
No.
care if we are.
And
Yeah,
well,
that's
we literally
true.
talked about this. Like,
Yes.
other people can help people heal,
100%.
yes.
and so, and it's not a like y'all were in life group together. It was not a like God orchestrated that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He
You
really
know?
did.
You know,
Like-
he did. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a deeper part to that story if you want to know exactly how God orchestrated
We'll
it.
get there.
Great.
But so kind of starting. So Danny passed away February 4th,
Mhm.
and February 6th was when my ex-husband said, "Hey, I don't know if I want to be married anymore."
Mhm.
February 5th. It was February 5th because February 6th we did Christmas with my family. That was a Saturday. So February 5th. So
In
a day
February.
within each other. Huh?
In
Yeah, it was
February, you
trauma.
did Christmas.
It was COVID.
Sorry.
Well, hey, you know what? My family on my parents' side, we almost always do
Mhm.
on like.
Well,
in
it was
January.
COVID, so we
Yeah.
couldn't get together, and everybody was scared,
It's
and
fine.
all that. So yes,
A
I just
Valentine Christmas.
Yeah.
I'm just more of a rebel, I guess, because I'd have been like, screw that. We're doing Christmas anyway.
well, I'm a very date. Like I remember
Yeah.
dates very well, and
Mhm.
that. So I'm kind of speaking on our little coincidences
Okay.
that
Okay.
we have in common. That's kind of brought us a little bit closer, I would say. So February 4th and February 5th. And then February 28th was my first day at this life group.
Mhm.
And this was his first day back at church. So
Yeah.
him and Danny weren't going to church for a while prior to her passing.
Okay.
Just for fundamental issues
Yeah,
with the religion.
Yes.
Okay.
So,
Right.
but his first day back was the same day I went, February 28th, I believe. And I did not like him.
Oh, yeah.
He was mean. He was angry. I didn't know why,
Yeah.
but kind of a weird thing was Danny did her residency at the hospital that I work at. Everybody knew of Dr. Johnson.
Mhm.
And I see all these posts on Facebook and everybody's so sad. And I'm like, what is going on? I knew the exact spot I was sitting at. And I remember asking Mel Trejo, I said, Melissa, what happened?
Mhm.
And she told me, and I was like, oh. And so I looked you up on Facebook. And I'm like, that's going to be so hard with a 1-year-old, your wife passing, and you're going to have to raise your kid by yourself.
Mhm.
And I remember exactly where I was at. And
Mhm.
so I hate to think that you were hurting back then.
That's sweet.
Yeah. No. Anyways, it just makes me sad.
Yeah.
Like
Well-
you're ruining it, dude.
And that was a couple days prior to what me and my ex were about to go through. Well, then when I see this guy at life group, people were talking about someone passing away. And I honestly thought it was one of my friends, Kelly, her friend, that just passed away.
Mhm.
I honestly thought that's who they were talking about. And I was like, and then I found out it was Dr. Johnson. And then I put two and two together, like, oh, I saw this guy on Facebook and
Mhm.
he has a son. But he was mean. Like, he was mean. He wasn't nice to anybody. Didn't really talk to anybody except Matt and Cheyenne, who are good friends. But I didn't like this guy. He was a jackass. And I'm like, who wants to be friends with him? I don't want to sit by him.
Mhm.
And so I was like, I don't want to be around this guy.
Yeah.
But I started becoming good friends with Kyle. Eventually, me and Kyle are now friends. We're
Yeah.
really good friends,
Yeah.
actually. I do look up to Kyle, but you're welcome, Kyle. Anyways,
That guy, Kyle.
He's awesome. He is awesome.
he is a good guy, and his wife's one of my best friends, so
That's
I can't
awesome.
Yeah.
can't complain. But we started becoming really good friends with Matt and Cheyenne, or I did.
Mhm.
And they kind of took me under their wing because I was going through divorce, and I lived in Nakona at the time, and so I was driving literally in Wichita. It's a 45-minute drive. I was there almost every day in Wichita,
Mhm.
and I worked in Wichita. So I was going to counseling and I was going to church and then going to church every Sunday and just trying to do the right thing, because I could have definitely turned to alcohol or turned to a lot more things. Or yes, it definitely crossed my mind of wanting to kill myself because I was going through such a hard time. And, but I didn't. And, so our little coincidence thing is I accepted Jesus on March 12th, I believe. And then you and Danny's first wedding was when?
I don't know. I'm a
was
man.
in March.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was
in
like
March.
the same day, let's say.
Yes.
I don't know.
And then what was the first street that you
Hold on. Why were we even looking at these coincidences? So what happened is we were starting to be around each other a lot.
Yeah.
And she started to, be like, oh,
I think the first time.
And so her and Cheyenne started talking about like, hey,
we have a
look at
list
all
of
this-
coincidences.
Yeah, look at all this stuff that lines
And we're
up
like,
with each other.
this is weird that
Well,
all these
I
things
wasn't
were
involved
lining
in
up.
it. I wasn't involved in it originally.
Well, how we
I am now.
Yeah, now I'm clearly involved.
So on Facebook, I changed my name to Ainsley Noel instead of Ainsley Brown. And that was
Yes.
how it all started. So
And PSA, so Ainslie Johnson was born Ainslie Johnson.
Yeah.
I was.
And then,
And married Ryan Johnson.
yes,
after that, yeah.
so
Yeah.
no name change.
Yeah.
There.
Well, I was married. It was
Correct.
Ainsley Brown. I
Yes.
changed it on Facebook to Ainsley Noel. So this guy thought my last name was Noel.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
I was at Cheyenne's house doing the dishes. I don't know why I was doing dishes.
Yeah, me neither, because that's
But my
not
back was
something
to
that happens.
my back was to Ryan
It's
and
okay, me
Matt.
neither. That's my least favorite chore.
And I was telling this story because I used to work at Hendrix here, and this little Filipino lady, Edna, called me Jacqueline for 2 years. And
Why?
I did not want to correct her. She thought my name was Jacqueline. So anytime I
Ainsley.
handed off report, she's like, thanks, Jacqueline. What's your last name? I said, Johnson. So Jacqueline Johnson. And so I was telling that story, and Ryan's like, Johnson? I'm like, yeah, that's my last name. My last name's Johnson. And he's like, oh, gosh.
Yeah.
His last name's Johnson.
Mhm.
And so we were starting kind of aligning these things. And so Danny passing February 4th and Clayton telling me he didn't want to be married February 5th. And then I accepted Jesus March 12th. And that was around their time of
Yeah,
their
that was when we
first
got married.
weddings. And then
Their
my-
first,
Okay.
clarify this
Yeah.
point. How many
So
times
we
did you
got
get married to
married.
her?
We got
at the
married
courthouse
Okay,
in
at the
March.
courthouse officially, and then we
Okay.
had
Okay.
an actual
A wedding.
ceremony in
I was
September.
thinking-
later.
But you saying first wedding?
Yeah.
Like,
No,
okay.
then we didn't get divorced or have a
Okay.
fight.
No, it
we
just
got married
had a
March
ceremony.
12th
Yeah. Okay.
in the courthouse for the real deal,
Got
like
it.
official legal thing,
Yeah.
and then
And then
in September.
my nephew's birthday is March 20th. His is March 21st. And then you have the Johnson thing.
There's a lot of them that actually align. These ones don't seem like they align, but there's a lot of them that
Okay, so
I'm
Anyways.
tracking. Yes,
Yes.
we're good. Okay.
the first place that him and Danny got together and their
Mhm.
apartment was on Ainsley Street.
Yeah, on Ainsley Place. That's the
Or Ainsley
whenever
Place.
whenever I started dating her, the name of my road was Ainsley. Like I've never even heard that name before until I
Yeah,
met her
Tell her.
Mm-hmm.
again, right? Like other than the street name.
Yeah.
Like, I never had it. But yeah. That was one of them.
Wait,
I
that's
don't even know what
wild.
all of them
Isn't
were,
that
but there was a
crazy?
lot of these things.
Yeah.
That's
There were
wild.
a lot of
Yeah.
little things.
Clayton and I, we got married September 8th, and him and Danny got married September 8th.
Yeah.
Not the same year, but
Yeah, but
the
different.
same date.
Yeah, the same. That was when the ceremony was, not the
Yeah.
March 12th. thing.
I'm trying to think what
Your
I don't
second wedding.
remember. I don't
there
remember
was
them all.
quite a bit.
Because for me, none of this was convincing enough anyway.
Yeah.
Right? Like I was like, cool, but I'm not really ready to do that. Matter of fact, and the reason that we were both at that house is they were kind of like supporting both of us.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when they would cook,
They
they
didn't
would
invite
invite
y'all.
both people.
Yeah.
And it
Mhm.
wasn't necessarily to be like, hey,
Hey, let's get
matchmaking,
them
so
together.
It wasn't like
Yeah.
that.
It wasn't
It was
like that.
them showing love to two people that were hurting.
Right.
And,
Right.
At one point, me and Matt, Cheyenne, and I, is the proper grammar, went out to a steakhouse, and they're like, "Hey, what's the deal?" Because we did start like at a point
communicating
more, me and her, because
Yeah.
we were just around all the time. And I was like, that could work. You know what I mean? And you heard how I asked my first wife, like, I'll just ask the same question. Like, that's all I do. Like,
you know me, I'm
seriously-
not very submissive type.
Well, that's fine.
Yeah, no,
but,
yeah.
It's not fine, but we'll work on it.
You've been married 3 years already.
But I mean, like, I was like, well, it could work. I mean, I like her. She's attractive, right? Like, and I don't think that you actually fall in love with a person. I don't think that that's a real thing. The definition of love is doing stuff for a person that you don't want to do or that hurts you. You know what I mean? That's all love is. That's the biblical definition. That's always been the definition. Now, because of movies and everything, we have this definition of love being like this butterfly feeling. That's not a real thing.
Yeah.
Right? Like this.
That's lust. Yeah.
Yeah. Greater love has no man than this, that he laid down his life for his friends. Right? Like that love is doing things that hurt you or that you don't want to do for another person. So you can learn to love anybody. That's not a problem for me. And so like I was like, well, maybe this. And I'm not a dating person. Like I don't want to date. Like it's either like we're either communicating to see if we can stand each other for the rest of our lives or not. You know what I mean? And
I wish this was beer.
yeah, I don't know that we evaluated it enough. But anyway, so we're at dinner and Matt's like, hey, what's the deal? And I'm like, it's not gonna happen. I'm like, it's not gonna happen. I'm not ready. I'm not looking. Like maybe in 3 years or whatever, I'll start looking, but it's not gonna happen.
Did you feel like a pressure, whether it be from family, society, just of that there needed to be time?
Yeah.
Okay.
I did feel like there was a pressure.
He had a 5-year plan.
Well, I had a 5-year plan, but that any person should have a 5-year plan.
Yeah.
Period.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Every person should know at least what they would like
Correct.
to see happen within 5,
In
10,
5 years.
30 years or whatever, be it with money, jobs, anything. You should always have a plan, a backup plan, an emergency plan, and a plan to that. You know what I mean? Like you should always have all these plans.
Yeah.
Pace, primary, alternate, emergency, contingent, primary, alternate, contingency, emergency. You should have all of them.
Well, dang.
Right? Yeah, you should always have all those
Do
plans.
you have your life together like that?
No.
Yeah, I mean, no, I don't have my life together like that, but there's plans.
I need to learn a
None
thing
of
or
them
two.
work, right?
Correct. Yeah.
But so we're sitting there and I'm like, dude, we're not doing this. So you guys can stop. Because at this point they had started kind of
Yeah. Now they're trying to
Prodding-
work the.
prodding the bull a little bit
Yeah.
because they
Mhm.
saw that there was connections there, which to be fair, God probably had a hand in, you know what I mean? In letting them see that and letting them do all that. At a certain point, like I was like, okay, here's the interesting thing. When we were going to like some of the same events at a certain point, I was like, okay, do you want to do this? She's like, yeah. I'm like, all right, let's kiss, do that. You know what I mean?
Okay, let's
But our
kiss.
first kiss.
Yeah, our first kiss was at a football game, right? And
Mhm.
that it was like, hey, we can do this, but if we hurt each other, it can't affect our relationship with the rest of our community.
Yeah.
Because I'm very objective about everything. Like the last thing that I want to do is because she was new to church anyway. The last thing I wanted to do was push her away from church.
Yeah.
Right. And so I kissed her. We moved on. The whole ride home, I felt like an adulterer, right? Because I kissed somebody other than my wife.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
I was like, this is terrible. Like I cried the whole way home from this football game,
Yeah.
which is not the response that most women want to hear after their first kiss, but that's the truth.
It's true.
And
Yeah.
so the next couple of weeks we were doing stuff. And I was just like, dude, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, what do you want from me? Like my relationship with God at the time was definitely closer because it had to be, but it wasn't correct. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know that it'll ever be correct. But what I mean by that is I'm not sure that church that we were going to is the church. I know for a fact that that's not the true church, right? And so I was finding other tools in other Christianities, if you will, that were helping me have a relationship with God, but it wasn't a good relationship with God. It was a relationship, nonetheless. And like I'd be talking to him in my front yard, not praying, just talking to him in my front yard, or be like, dude, what do you want me to do? Right? Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, I know that you have control of everything. That's not a problem for me. I believe all this, but like, now what? You know, what am I supposed to do from here? And at a certain point, so that leads to, I would ask questions. I'm not saying that this is what happened. Sunset, you know, I'd be like, oh, okay, well, he's happy with that. Let's move forward, right?
Sunsets were a big thing.
Yeah, for Danny. And I always made fun of her because I was like, it happens every day, right? Like I took it for granted, she didn't, and so I made fun of her for it. And so they became a big thing for me after that. And so she had asked me to come be at her rental house because there were 2 male plumbers coming to fix something. And I was like, that's a valid request. 100%, I'll go there. Even if I wasn't going out with her, I would go there because that's a valid request.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you don't put yourself in a situation like that. That's ridiculous. And so I was going over there, but she had a doctor's appointment. And so I called, and her house was right by this park. And I called her. I'm like, hey, where are you at? I'm on the street. She's like, well, I'm still at this doctor's appointment. Can you give me like 30 minutes? So I'm like, sure. So I pull into this park. The last time that I'm at this park, we were there to take family pictures with Danny and James. And I have all these like professional done pictures from that park. And I'm just like, you know what I mean? Like, why am I here? Like, I didn't even realize it until I'm in the parking lot. And so I'm sitting there and I'm crying and I'm like, hey, I'm like, God, what do you want me to do with this woman? Speaking about Ainsley, like, what do you want? You know what I mean? I was like, I know that you can't give me I said, hey, can you just make this duck jump on my hood if you want me to be with her? Because like, you don't know. Like, it's not like a voice, is going to appear and be like, yeah, be with her.
Like, give me a sign.
Show me what you want me to do and I'll do it. Like, I don't care anymore. Just show me what you want me to do and I'll do it. And so I started to say, make this duck jump on my hood because I know that you can't give me a sunset. And before I could finish the word sunset, she sent me a text. So I opened it up and it's a picture of a sunset. And I was like, why did you send me that? And she's like, I don't know. I saw it in the doctor's office and I know you like sunsets. So, and I was like, okay, God, right? Like,
oh, wow.
Didn't mean to say that you can't do something because apparently you can, right? Because you're the creator of the entire universe. You can do whatever you want, right? And so, but basically that was like,
that gave me chills.
He wants me to be with this woman, right? And so at that point, I'm like, hey, let's get married. Let's do that. Like, that was it. Like, that's all I needed. You know what I mean? And so, and that is our story.
September 23rd.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I still have that picture that she sent me. Like, I have a picture of that text string, right? Where I'm like, why did you send me that?
Okay, so you said something earlier before we were talking, but you were saying how you feel like what you went through is worse than like going through divorce.
Yeah, I was on another podcast a long time ago. I don't even know what the name of the podcast, but somebody was asking me, about what happened and how you got through it. The whole purpose of that podcast was just like how to deal with this in case somebody else has to deal with it, and not saying that doing what I did is the right thing, but like I'm through it. I'm mostly through it. There's still definitely times when I think about it, but like it doesn't affect my life in the same way it did at that point. And so I was talking to the guy and he's like, well, how did you deal with it? Like the stress of it. And I was like, well, if you look at the rest of the world, like there's people dealing with worse things than I dealt with.
Yeah.
And he's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, like there's a girl at church. I was thinking about her when I said it, whose husband divorced her. I mean, we're just going to be a little personal, but like cheated and then divorced her. You know what I mean? Like, and like, that's way worse. You know what I'm saying? Because
Somebody's
the memories
actively
that I have with my wife are awesome.
Beautiful.
Yeah. It was a phenomenal relationship. And I go away from that. Yes, I'm hurting because she's no longer with me, but the truth is,
the fact that you got it to experience.
Yeah, I get to keep all of that. Whereas she has to dump all of it. Right? If you think, even just in those terms, like for what was it? You know what I mean? Like, and so I was just like, there's people who have it worse. And if you keep that in mind, anytime you go through something bad and you actually keep it in mind, meaning that you actually act on it, then you can get through anything. Because there's always somebody who has it worse. Like, dude, we live in a first world country where our biggest problem is like our Starbucks line. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's people in the world that don't have food every day.
Mm-hmm.
There's people in the world who have to worry about being executed for their religion. Like, nothing can happen to us that's bad enough that we don't overcome it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so that's kind of how I looked at it, and that was quite helpful. And to be fair, like I had a community surround me. Like I had the best support group you could ever imagine.
Yeah.
And not just from church, but like my friends were always there. whenever I needed them. And they still are.
Mm-hmm. So how has that, so as you stepped into y'all's relationship and now marriage, like what was that transition like for you coming out of your trauma and divorce into then stepping into like becoming a mom and it just a totally different dynamic because
I've had the
honor of knowing you for a very long time, you know, and so I've seen you through a lot of different seasons of life.
Yeah, you were at my first wedding.
I know.
It was natural, I felt like, with James. It wasn't, I mean, at first I was a little hesitant, but now I'm like, I'm mom.
Yeah.
Like you listen to me, I'm raising you. And I don't really.
You don't think about it.
I don't.
Like it's just not something I thought about.
Easy? Was it hard? Was it scary? I mean, what was?
I mean, it was scary because sometimes I do have these initial thoughts of like this isn't my blood child, but he is my child. So no one can tell me differently.
Yeah.
Right.
Like he is my kid. You can't tell me you're not his mom.
Yeah.
Yes, I am.
That wouldn't go well.
That wouldn't go well. Like I am his mom. I am raising this kid to the best of our ability that we can.
One thing that I've truly admired and is that like the way that you've stepped into that and just sorry, I'm getting emotional. Just I didn't even have the honor of, you know, knowing Danny, but seeing the way that you've honored her and her life and I think respected her place in your life and in James's life.
100%. I think
such a
on that topic really quick for anybody who's listening who is in a relationship where there's like children, whether the person's still alive or not, and they're coming into it, I think that the important part isn't what they do. I mean, it is what they do, but the important part is for the person who is or already is the parent to allow them to step into that role.
Yeah.
Because if you don't allow them to do it, then they'll never be empowered to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, like, if I was to put a leash, essentially, I'm a dog trainer, right? So if I was to put a leash on what she can do, on how she has to, that it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
She couldn't be the mom if I did that.
Yeah.
And so
it's his support too.
Yeah.
But we also do have discussion like on how we do parent our kids.
Everybody does.
Yeah.
You hope.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
like
if
we
you don't,
we agree on a lot of things,
You
and
have
there's
to
some
be
that
on the same page.
we
we don't agree on
everything.
everything.
But we try to
Figure
do that
it
in
out.
private and
Yeah.
figure it out.
Yeah.
I think what's so great though, to kind of piggyback off what Sarah said, is like, so I'm not married. I don't have a child yet or anything. So I can't even imagine what it's like, what she's feeling. But I could imagine if I had a kid and say something were to ever happen to me, it's like, just, you would want somebody
Like
incredible to step in and like fill that role, you know? Because I mean, at the end of the day, she is his mom. I mean,
100%.
there's nobody else there to do
Yeah.
it for him. So
well, and like as a thinking from the perspective of if I was no longer here, and what type of person would I want to
raising
to
your
step
child.
in
Right.
and fill and
Mhm.
and raise my child and be that person for my husband. Like I mean,
Yeah.
you couldn't have picked a better one.
Yeah. That's true. Well, maybe in some ways.
I knew he was going to.
I was waiting for it, but I'm a little
I don't think I see it like as a competition. Like I just see it
No.
as I'm
Doing your job.
Yeah, I'm
That's all it
continuing
is.
on being a mom and being there for him and
Mhm.
knowing that I'm not going to just walk away unless something happens, but not like that, but like passing
He's like,
What was
he's
gonna
like, wait,
happen?
wait a second.
Is
like
it recorded?
passing away or anything like that.
Yes,
Like
yeah.
knowing that I'm not going anywhere
Yeah.
and that he can trust me as his
Mhm.
mom. But now we have 2 other ones to
I
add to the
know.
picture.
They're
Mm.
cutie patoots.
Mhm.
They
So-
look like you all day too.
So
Oh,
do
gosh.
they ever ask like about?
They're a little young.
Okay.
The other two, yeah. So one's 5, one's 1 and 8, and one's 8 months.
What are you?
Right?
Oh,
No.
okay.
I have James is 5.
Okay.
Okay, he is him and Danny's, but he is also mine.
Right.
And then we have a 21-month-old.
Okay.
He's a mama's boy
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
through and
Sheppy.
through.
Somebody
Yeah.
encourages
Yeah.
that behavior.
He little shepherd. And then I have an 8-month-old, which he is a mommy's boy too. James is more of dad because dad goes outside and he does fun things, and I do fun things
he's
too.
older.
Yeah.
But he's
Yeah.
older, and
Yeah.
they can relate a little bit better
Yeah.
because James can go do
He's
chores.
learning to be a man.
Yeah,
right?
he can do chores. He
Mhm.
can fill up the horse's water
Yeah.
or stuff like that, and help feed birds or help feed dogs. While the other two, they have to change diapers, and
Yeah.
Mhm.
not his biggest fan.
Yeah, bye.
So
Give them to me when they can poop and wipe their own butt, and then I'll make them
yeah,
in.
so
I feel like men can always relate more to
To
their children
older.
once they
Mhm.
can actually like go
Do
do fun
things.
things.
Yeah.
Be the
Yeah.
fun person.
like instead of just sitting there and
Like,
drooling,
Watching Miss
and-
Rachel. Like,
yes,
if I ever meet that lady, boy.
she
we
is.
will have words.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
But-
mean, she's very good developmentally.
Oh, yeah,
Like,
yeah, sure.
like she's
That's
great.
Shepard's favorite person in the entire world.
Yeah,
other than
but
me.
when you catch yourself sitting there like jamming to Miss Rachel on the couch, you're like, you've got to get out of the house. Like this has got to, like we need a break. Yeah.
Oh God, I'm not gonna have kids. Just
But-
kidding. I definitely want kids.
So now, kind of where y'all are at in your life, how do you
Yeah.
kind of balance navigating through grief and joy and in your home life and your career? How has some of this just really overflowed into the way that you live and walk in your life today?
I don't know that there's that much grief anymore. I mean,
Yeah.
not saying that there aren't times of sadness, but
yeah, like something like a song will come on and
Yeah.
it will make you think of Danny,
right.
or things like what I see on Facebook, like
Yeah, because
pictures,
memories pop up, right?
memories do pop up, especially Snapchat memories that I have saved will pop up like from 4 years ago. Like coming up, like May 28th is when I moved from Nakona to Wichita. And I saw it on my Snapchat memories of me moving. And so like things would pop up. And sometimes I think like if Clayton and I were to rekindle things back then, where would I be today? I wouldn't have been happy. A lot of internal things wouldn't have changed. I wouldn't have seen like different sides of things. Definitely wouldn't be going to church or learning more about religion. So there's that part of things. But like you said, the grief really, we've kind of moved past that.
Yeah.
It's not that we forget.
Yeah.
We don't, we're never going to forget about
Yeah.
Danny, because one, we have a spit image of Danny living in our house, which is James. He's blonde hair, blue eyes. We have pictures of her. We have her urn in the office. I mean, she's going to be with us. Her family still comes and visits from Mexico.
Good.
Like Ceci,
It
her
was just
mom
here.
was just here
Good.
this past
Aw.
weekend. And so she's always going to be a part of our life.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm always going to cherish her.
Yeah.
I feel like it's, to me, it's not a competition. It's
No.
just living on becoming James's mom and being his wife.
Yeah.
I mean, thanks for having us. It
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
y'all have
Thank
really
you.
touched on
was
everything.
fun.
And
Yeah.
was a good little talk.
Yeah, I really enjoyed getting to know you, especially.
I'm glad
I
he's
know
been
Ainsley.
nice.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I did warn you. I'm like, he can be,
I just think
things that you say can be definitely be taken the wrong way.
100%.
And
Just
I
like-
take them the wrong way too.
Just like things in the Bible can be taken
I
the wrong way.
I think he's just a blunt person.
Yeah.
but,
He is
I mean,
very,
yeah.
I'm used to being around blunt
but I
people,
think
so don't
you
bother
both
me.
have quite a
Yeah.
unique and beautiful story and testimony, and
Mhm.
I do too.
and
I think everybody
way-
does.
mhm.
It's very
but
true.
She's
I'm-
talking about us.
I'm
Mhm.
appreciative of the fact that you took the time to come share today and share
Yeah.
your journey and your
Thank you
hearts,
for having
and
us.
thank you for what you do for people. I
Mhm.
mean, how you lead in your community and in your church and in the way that you're raising your family and dogs and patience. I think what y'all do is and how you walk is beautiful and powerful, and thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, and
Tune in next time.